The family of Chief MKO Abiola, who is recognized as the rightful winner of the annulled June 12, 1993 presidential election, has called on President Bola Tinubu to introduce legislation that would permanently institutionalize the date of that election as Democracy Day in Nigeria. The call was made on Thursday on behalf of the Abiola family by one of the late politician's sons, Hameen, shortly after the visit of a delegation from the Ogun State government to the Abiola family house in Abeokuta. According to the family, institutionalization remains the only way to permanently immortalize and ensure that future generations of Nigerians do not abolish the day and nullify the sacrifice made by their late patriarch. Well, the Rise News analyst Dayo Sobowale joins us now to discuss this call and what more is left for the government to do after previous efforts to institutionalize the occasion. Good afternoon, Mr. Sobowale. Many thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon. Pleasure of being here.
So what else is left for the government to institutionalize this?
Nothing. Absolute nothing. Yesterday, what they are asking for was done in the National Assembly. Already, June 12th is Democracy Day, and the National Assembly has institutionalized the fact that the president will make a speech on that day. Get me? What they are asking for now is like playing God with June 12th, that subsequent generations will not come and abolish June 12th. Even if it is made into law, laws are made to be revised in the context of social development. So the only antidote to that nobody will change it, is that good governance, democratic norms are followed, and we have free and fair elections every time we go to the polls. Once that is done, that's the only insurance that will make sure that June 12th is not dismissed by future generations. That's my take.
All right. Okay, speaking about institutionalizing June 12th, some would say that as democracy deepens here in Nigeria, we seem to be losing the ethos of June 12th. That politicians that all spoke in favor of June 12th, right now that they are in office, they are almost running amok against what June 12th stands for and how that particular day is symbolic in what has been termed one of the freest and the fairest elections in the history of Nigeria.
You are probably part of those the Abiola family are afraid of, that you will come later and scramble June 12th. That's my answer to that. So we have just verified the affairs. That's my answer. Next question.
Okay.
I'm not necessarily very clear on your response, but that's fine. I'm sure we'll...
I can expatiate.
Please, if you don't mind.
You heard what I just said, that
yes,
the Abiola family was playing God in trying to say that future generations will not change June 12th. And I said the only antidote to that is that we have democracy, free and fair elections to put our leaders in office. Once we do that, the military will not intervene, and that is guaranteed. And I said that even if laws are made, so you had about American amendments.
Yes, revision.
Amendments over time, yes. And then it comes out now and said those who are preaching June 12 are even the one rubbishing the idea of June 12. That is precisely what the Abiola family was afraid of, but which I don't buy.
Okay.
But he's already prepared for that with that question.
Okay.
Next question.
Now, more on the aspect of good governance.
Yeah.
Are you concerned that we might be dealing with more symbolic politics or genuine efforts to strengthen democratic institutions?
That's right. If you are saying that our democracy is sick, I will agree with you. Get me? And even all people who have been talking, including those in power now, agree that the June 12th election was the freest election. And that no election we have had has been free and fair. And yet people have been in power as a result of that. So the only antidote, I will repeat again, to the fears of their Abiolas is that they pray that we practice democracy in the spirit and law of it, that will bring dividends to our people, that will bring food to the table, and we have free and fair election, like June 12, always. That's the only antidote that do not make the military to scuttle a democracy, because that's always the fear. So let's leave it at that for now.
So okay, if we look at June 12, what it stands for, the symbolism and the true message, the spirit and the letter of June 12. Some will say that the democracy we practice right now is a complete joke because we do not, the rule of law is only obeyed when it suits the people in power to obey the rule of law. Case in point, what is happening in Rivers State with the president deciding to take matters into his own hands and his own interpretation of what section of the Constitution.
Yes. If you mention particular examples, the Fubara case in Rivers, that's the best example of the rule of law that I know in this country. Because the case was taken to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled that the governor sacked the legislature and was ruling alone. So what do you want the center to do? It declared it was according, you see, the rule of law is to make sure that there is separation of powers, that no part of the centers of power imposes itself on the other. It was the Supreme Court who made the decision and said the governor in Rivers State was lawless. And the government acted on that. So that's the best example of the rule of law.
But that's not the interpretation that several...
No, if you are talking of democracy, you want to give an example of democracy not working, not the Rivers State. Find another example.
Okay, well, perspectives will vary. There are some that, share Aaron's,
of course, I know.
Aaron's
the opposition
view and some that share yours as well.
Obi shares that view, Atiku shares that view, and many people too.
Indeed.
It's a democracy. Go ahead.
So do you think we're focusing too much, at least in this topic, on June 12 legislation is a distraction from the more pressing democratic challenges that are staring us in the face?
Of course, but that's the topic we have. I didn't want the topic, but that's the topic. Well, next question.
What would you?
Next question. You know how many times we have discussed June 12? Call Abiola, June 12, several times.
Going off of that. And it has
been institutionalized anyway, yesterday. You see, the National Assembly was planning to make the address formal and institutionalized, but they did it yesterday. And then the Abiola people, they didn't know they were doing it yesterday. That's why they added their own. But they wanted, like I say, to secure the future. Nobody secures the future. The only security for the future of democracy is good governance, free and fair elections. Sam?
But going by what you said, you'd rather focus on other more pressing democratic challenges as opposed to this. Yes. What would your preference be?
I'm not the head of state. You don't have to know that. You tell me your own preference.
No problem.
Yes.
All right, okay, as we try to wrap it up.
Yes.
On this issue of June 12.
Yes.
Do you think...
You are bothered by June 12?
No, we are on the topic of June 12. So we might as well anchor it on June 12.
Okay.
Because my own question to you is plain and simple.
You are not happy with our democracy. You are entitled to your views. Go ahead.
No, I'm not. This is not my
your question.
This is just to probably look at all sides of the argument. Beautiful. And also because, like you said, while some are celebrating the fact that our democracy is growing, some are still insisting, like you said, the opposition voices, that there is still a lot to be done.
A lot. Did you read what Atiku said today?
Yes.
That we are on the brink of disaster.
Yes. So the reason why I say so is this:
his views are very welcome.
Yeah.
And
so
he's talking.
These are not just views now, because videos were circulating of former President Goodluck Jonathan and the whole protest that happened, and we saw people almost cursing him, swearing against him on what, as at then, seemed to be an aberration. But right now, it's looking like a lot of sense, and that if probably we had told that particular line, is it easier to practice democracy when you are out of government than when you're in government?
Look, that question is tautological. I will tell you something. This is the winner who writes history. Look at the people that were honored. If you know the history of June 12, Those are the people who took on the Abacha regime.
Yes.
So, and the president is a victim of military dictatorship. He ran away, and now he's in power.
Yes.
So, if they reward themselves, what is wrong with that? You get me? What you are saying is that maybe their performance in office has not been good enough. That is another issue. You get me? But for them to celebrate overcoming military dictatorship, I think this is in order. There's nothing wrong with that. The only insurance for them to stay in office is to have free and fair election, so that the military they are celebrating against now do not ever come back. I want democracy. There's no perfect democracy. See what is going on in the US between Trump and the California governor? Just because they want to implement policy. They have to implement policy. So there is no utopia anywhere in the world. This is our own democracy with all its faults. You can always ally the faults. That is why we are in a democracy, and that's why we are here.
Well, the faults are certainly numerous.
Wow.
We'd like to thank you for your analysis as always. Mr. Dayo Sobowale, thanks for joining us here on Newsday. Thank you.